Dan Rothenberg and Joe Klosik, two guys trying to figure it out. Not the right wing, not the brosphere. Left of center with humor and empathy.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody.
Welcome to the
Splain.
We're so bad at that. We're so bad. I feel like that's kind of now, we can never change that bad intro, but I like it. It's us.
Me too. Not quite in sequence.
Yes, that is what I was getting at. Well, hello everyone. So today we have a pie, sort of, right?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
No, the B isn't a P. We just discussed this.
It's a BH. It's like a B sound. You know, it's hard to explain because I don't think you have a lot of Abhay. Yeah.
Oh.
It's like there's a stretch on the B and the H. Okay. Yeah, it's all good. No worries at all.
We don't have a lot of PhDs.
Okay. We tried
here.
to consult before the recording. We blew it anyway.
We blew it anyway.
But here on the Splain, we're cool. We can make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna. Did you hear the intro? I mean, it's
it's the Splain, right? So yeah.
It's the Splain.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great.
So how long have you been doing stand-up now? Like, let's give us the basic rundown.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on your podcast. It's very nice of you, and looking forward to talking about comedy. And to answer your question, I started stand-up about 15 years ago. In 2009, my friend, my roommate at the time, he actually wanted me to roast him at his wedding. And he was like, hey, you do all these voices and, you do these impressions. So you should do a roast of me at the wedding. And I didn't really know anything about stand-up at the time. So I took a couple of classes and then got into the rhythm of writing jokes and presenting on stage and, doing all that good stuff. And then once I had some confidence, I did the roast for the wedding. So my first real gig was a roast of my roommate at his wedding. So
how did that go?
That was fun. It was fun. It was good. I started off my career in Los Angeles, and then I used to do a lot of impressions at the time. And then I was like, oh, that's all stand-up is about. But then I had to dig deeper into like joke writing and all that stuff. So it got to a point where, I moved to San Francisco to get more stage time and do that more as a,
Grow up in LA?
No, I grew up in India, and then I moved to the States as a student, and then I was in Los Angeles at the time, and I was like, oh, there's nothing else to do here in the evening, so I decided to go to these comedy shows. I went to the Laugh Factory back in 2008, 2009. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I was always fascinated by stand-up because my first introduction to stand-up was actually the Seinfeld show. And I didn't even know what this was. This art form was very unusual to me because I would just see Seinfeld go up on, like the show was funny, and then at the end of the show he would do his monologue. And I was like, oh, is he giving a speech? Is he singing a song? Like, what is this, So the mechanics of stand-up itself didn't make sense to me because I was just blown away by the fact that you can actually entertain people by telling them jokes. So that in my head was like, oh, this is something that people can do. And then I saw Russell Peters in 2003 or 2004 is when I saw his video go viral in India, and it was a huge hit. This was pre-YouTube, by the way. It was just a .asf file that was being shared all over the internet. And everyone was just excited to see a brown guy doing stand-up, telling jokes. And the first special that he did in Canada, that was really funny. So I was like, oh, he's doing voices and I do voices. Maybe I could do this someday, So those are some of the, first inklings of, getting into the stand-up profession. But then my friend was like, he was my roommate at the time. His name was Sanjeev. He was like, hey, man, you need to go and do stand-up and you need to roast me at my wedding. So he kind of pushed me and told me, hey, this is what you should do. I started in 2009. Took a break for a couple of years when I moved to the Bay, and then, just did it as a serious hobby in 2014. I was like, okay, I need to get more stage time. I need to do more, get up on stage more and, just get into the rhythm of things because you have to the first few years, I'd say the first 5 to 7 years, you really have to figure out like joke structure, be comfortable on stage, and get a routine that's like a solid 15, 20 minutes, right? Just keep writing and go up on stage. So I was like, okay, I need to, get that sorted first and then get to the other stuff after that. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer to your
No,
question.
no, no, no. That's. I mean, there's a lot in there that I want to know more about. Is any truth that your roommate originally approached Russell Peters to roast him at his wedding, and then he's like, "Well, I guess I'll go with my roommate." But
It's a budget. It's a budget.
it's a budget
situation.
thing. I get it. I do remember. I can't remember what year it was. It might have been like 2007, 2008. I opened for Russell Peters at the Sacramento Punchline, and yeah, like 98% Indian audience coming out.
Yeah.
And the first thing he would say on stage is, "If you know who I am, you downloaded me." Because that's how. But I mean, the thing that's also fascinating to me about that is when you get guys like Russell Peters who represent a community that hasn't really had a voice in stand-up, it introduces a whole new group of people to stand-up.
Correct.
You know, which I felt like, okay, because there was me, there was an Asian guy who I think has disappeared from the scene now, but we were getting really solid laughs, like bigger laughs than a normal crowd, because this was like the first time this audience was really hearing just what you said, like, wait a minute, you can stand there and tell jokes, and they were eating it up, and I thought like, oh, this is actually a pretty cool thing because we're building a bridge. And then he would go up there and he could do no wrong, which was kind of amazing.
Right. Yeah. And it was just fun to see someone being represented from our community in mainstream comedy, because most times it was just, regional stuff that people would present. But this was for a mainstream audience. So that was a big, shift for us in terms of our community being represented. Right. So I think that was a big moment for Indian comedy or comedy in general, because before that I don't think there was any brown comedians that were of Indian heritage, like pretty much doing stand up in arenas. I think it was.
I think you're right.
Him, it was maybe I think before him it was maybe what's his name, Steve Martin and Dice Clay that were like arena comedians, and then maybe Eddie Murphy, but I think he's an equivalent to Eddie Murphy for the Indian community. In some sense.
I mean, I think there was always like You Might Be a Redneck guys, and those guys were doing arenas. But you're right.
What are they called again?
The blue collared. The
blue collar comedy tour.
Comedy
like they were selling out, but it's like, oh wow, 4 white guys doing comedy, really pushing the boundary.
And can I just back up for a second? So give me an idea. You came to L.A. from India for school. What at that point? What was the expectation? Where did you think your life was going?
I just had a regular day job. I was working in sales, technical sales, and I used to go to these meetings, and people would, just have these, how sales guys are, right? So it's like, you usually shoot the shit after the call, and it's like, how was that meeting? It was like, yeah, it was great, it was fantastic. And I would just do those voices and be like, wait, where did that voice come from? Where did that voice come from? We need to figure this out, And then I would, there was this one guy who was always smoking a cigar, and he was like the guy who was, the equivalent of, the Godfather. He had a Godfather type presence, and he just had a very gruff voice, and we would just make fun of him all the time. It was like, yeah, that meeting was not very good. So he was a fun guy to have around. So I would just do these voices after the meetings, and they'd be like, hey, are you some kind of comedian or something? I was like, I know nothing about stand up. I just do these voices, and that's how I entertain myself. And after I didn't realize for the longest time I used to do these voices as a kid. Because when I was in school, I couldn't pay attention. And at the time, I didn't know I had ADHD, but I only found out after I moved here that I have like severe ADHD. I have very distracted thoughts, and my mind is always scatterbrained, which is most of the comedy community, I think, has this affliction. It's like,
that's usually the first sign.
And then
first sign,
and then we have the hyper focus sets in on stage.
Yeah, correct.
So we're actually comfortable.
Yeah, it is always
stage.
weird. Like off stage, yeah, life is messy and thoughts are scattered, and then you're on stage and you're like boom, 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 boom.
And it's
Right.
interesting too because structurally, that I think ADHD thinking maps itself really well to stand up because it's all setup punchline is like, oh, you don't expect it, and it kind of maps to like distracted thinking or distracted thoughts. So I've kind of rationalized that to say, okay, maybe this is a good thing for me.
Yeah. Do you remember? Do you remember the first time you really had a joke? Like you wrote a joke and it was killing on stage, where you were like, okay, okay, I get it. Do you remember what that joke was, or do you remember what that
You
felt
know,
like?
the gateway joke, the
Mm-hmm.
gateway joke. I would say the gateway joke was
Oh, that's a real
when,
joke. I thought this was like your
yeah.
gateway to
Oh, yeah, yeah,
yourself
yeah,
and your.
yeah.
Okay, can you
Well,
tell it real
I think,
quick? What's
yeah.
the
So
gateway
the
joke?
first, it was by gateway joke, I mean, okay, it's like a realization you can actually do this repetitively, right? You can tell more types of jokes and you can get on stage and all that stuff. I think the first joke that I did that, really, I would say that, let's see, let me think about this, because most of my jokes were, well, let's see. Um, Sorry, this is not good for the podcast, but
No, it's
yeah,
No,
okay.
no, no. It's okay.
one of the first one-liners that I wrote was my ex-girlfriend still keeps in touch with me by dating my friends. So that was one of the quick ones that I came
Clever.
up with. It's like yeah. So then I was
Really.
like, okay, I
It's
can do
good.
more of this, and then it was then I used to do a lot of these impressions of George Bush at the time, and people didn't expect that from a guy with an Indian accent. Where did this voice come from? It's like,
What do you
oh,
say at the
America, I'm
end?
back. So yeah, that's
What
how you should do it.
you do that impression, and yeah, I've seen you do it on stage sometimes, and the audience is so like, "What is that coming out of him?" But what do
Yeah,
you
they have a disbelief. Yeah, so it's
you
fine.
say at the end? You say something too about an Indian guy doing Trump. That's America, something like that. Like you kind of
Yeah, I
poke.
used to do it. So it was funny because there's so many guys doing Trump impressions, but I was like, okay, I need to have an angle that makes sense to me. And this was pre-election, right? It was like Trump speaks Spanish to get more votes. So it was like a funny take on him just going, oh, my cholesterol is very hurt, So uh, stuff like that was what I was trying. And then the end of that bit was. You just heard an Indian guy do a Trump impression in Spanish. That's the American dream. That was the way of
That's
wrapping
it.
up the joke.
I find impressions are funny and effective when there's a little bit of energy behind it, when there's an angle,
Yeah, exactly.
as
Yeah,
opposed to just mimicking.
Yeah,
correct,
yeah,
correct. Yeah.
yeah.
So
You're
I think
not like
that's
yeah.
an important part. Yeah, that's an important part of doing any voice. It has to have some subtext and some jokes,
Yeah.
and some. It has to have an integration into the set. So I really I don't do the voices as much as I used to, but maybe in the next special I'll bring it out and have some some social commentary in there somewhere. So I
Well,
think that's
I'm
fun.
glad you said that. I'm glad you said social commentary because did you when you started did you think you were going to be doing social commentary? Because I think now, like when I
No.
see you, I feel like
Yeah.
your whole set is social commentary, and it's subtle. It's very
Yeah.
subtle. I mean, there's a couple of times where you really are like bonking people on the head, but I
Yeah.
feel like for most people when they're doing social commentary, it's very assertive. It's very, and you're coming at it in this very sort of gentle way, and you're subverting a
Yeah.
lot of expectations because you're playing with the idea of being Indian and being in tech, but you're making a lot of these comments. The brown Jesus joke is a really really funny
Thank you.
I
commentary.
Yeah.
saw that one.
Yeah,
That's very funny.
yeah.
Yeah,
Jesus.
so here's the thing. So I used to work in tech till like 2024, and then I was laid off. And after that, I've been doing stand-up full time. And over the course of the last 18 months or so, there's been a realization that, oh, okay, this used to be a way to make money, and but it's the whole idea of tech has shifted so much, and there's so much disparity, and so I think there was a massive shift in my thinking about, doing this full time as an art form because until then I was doing stand up like just as a hobby, but after the layoff, I was like, oh, okay, this is a full time thing now, so I have to I have to figure out how to make a living. And as I see more and more, as my voice, I would say, my comedic persona hardens, I would say that this is probably a direction I will explore because there's so much meat on the bone to extract from the situation that we're in, right? There's income inequality, there's this immigration crisis, there's all this money that is being siphoned away by the rich and powerful, and it's no different from what it was like during the times of a revolution, right? So people are very upset about their taxes being misused in different places, and that I think is an angle that I definitely like talking about. I think I talk about billionaires quite a bit, about if you have that money, then you should pay taxes, that sort of stuff. I think that's indicative of what I'm thinking about these days. So I would say that there's some social commentary. There's some personal stuff as well, like personal stories about my life. I think that's as I'm shaping the new hour, that's going to be more embedded in there. So there's a bit of that. So so I just got rid of a bunch of material. I filmed my special last year, and that was 45 minutes or 50 minutes of stuff that was out there. So now I have to start from scratch, and I have to go through this excavation process of finding new information to talk about, So, yeah.
That's a very old school, respectable way to go about it. You're building an act.
Building an act, yeah, because it's been one of those things where I'm like, okay, fine, now what is it that I really want to talk about on stage? Because a lot of the first hour was just all the jokes that I did in the last 5 to 10 years just compressed. It was an interesting process because I had done this Melbourne Comedy Festival and I produced my own show there. I went to Melbourne and did like a whole hour of shows for a week. And it was probably the most challenging aspect of stand-up that I've faced because I was in a new country, just no presence there at all. And there's like hundreds of competing comedy shows, right? So you have to find a way to get people to your show. And I was averaging about 10 to 20 people per show, which is very low for a comedy event, right? But what it did help me do was, 7 nights of shows. I need to entertain these people and make sure they have a great time. So it kind of shaped my comedic abilities to a massive degree because I was like, oh, okay, people just need to laugh. But it really pushed me, I think, in an uncomfortable place, and that's where I grew out of that situation. So I think that helped me shape the hour, and I think I need to do more of that, like travel more and tour more to take new material and shape it into a respectable entity that can be filmed, So the other thing I noticed is that, doing 45 and filming for a special are two completely different things because you have to, really cut out a lot of material and make sure it cohesively strings together under a massive narrative, right? So if there's a narrative thread that makes the 45 seem like a 25 to the audience, those are things that I figured out along the way. And I didn't realize that when I was doing 45s. I was like, oh, okay, 45 stand-up is just like, oh, okay, you do some jokes, you talk to the crowd, do some jokes, do a story, and then, finish it. But I think filming a special is just so much more difficult because you have to put a lot more discipline. There's no room for slack. And, just maintaining the energy of the audience throughout the 1 hour of taping, I think that was interesting to me as a challenge. So, yeah. That was fun.
Where do your specials air, and do you produce them yourself?
No, so I worked with a producer, and they helped me get on this Comedy Dynamics distribution. So it was a producer called Super Nice Guys. So they helped put together the special, and then they taped the special, and then I worked with them to distribute it.
Where are we going to see it though? Where?
So the special's on Amazon and it's on Apple TV, a bunch of different places. Just search for Brown Jesus; it's on there. So if you enjoy it, it's funny too because some people got offended, I think, by the title and they gave me a bunch of 1-star reviews. So if you like it, give me a 10-star review.
I love. Let me. I really want to get into that too because I'm always fascinated. I mean, here's the thing: the day and age that we live in.
Yeah.
If someone comes out to comedy and you are delivering material that is, making fun of their belief system, making fun of their politics, pushing some button that they're really sensitive about, you're going to hear about it. You're going to hear about it in the moment through a heckle.
Yeah.
You're going to hear about it after the show. Sometimes they'll come up to you with a finger in your face. You're going to hear it online, like the 1-star reviews and this. Like, what is the worst experience you've had around someone coming up to you after a show?
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many instances where people will come up to me and be like, "Hey, you're not representing the community well with those jokes, and you were brought up as a Hindu, and now you're saying you're an atheist. These are not good things, So there's always some uncle finger pointing at the end of the show,
Wow.
So you can't you're getting it from both ends.
Yeah, but that's the art form. I think if you find some people that don't like your stuff, then it's a good sign that you're gonna find fans that will like your stuff. So there's if too many people like your stuff, then that means you're not like finding your
successful.
audience. That's one, but then but you know what I mean? Like it's like if you have a lot of haters, it's actually a good thing because you're finding your crowd, you're finding your audience, and you know that those people are not your audience. So I'd be like, hey, go see someone else. Like, and this is also a learning experience for me. It's like, oh, if something is offensive, then that to people, but it's not funny, then I need to tweak the joke. If it's funnier than it's offensive, then they'll come away saying, oh, okay, I get it now. And then they'll be more comfortable with their own hypocrisies, So I think it's like it's an interesting math equation. It's like if it's funny is greater than offensive, then people are fine with it. But if it's more offensive than it's funny, then be like, oh yeah, I don't know if I liked that particular material. And
yes, it's not worth. And I look back on my own experience. Yeah, at times, I don't even want to get into it. Some of the horrific. It was a learning experience. So back then, when I was doing comedy in the '90s and early 2000s, it was more forgiving. You were
correct.
You were the event began and ended the night of, and no one was filming you, and it was a singular event. Yeah. But yeah, I look back at times. I would learn that lesson. Like that's just not worth it.
Yeah,
exactly. As clever as I thought it was, you're not that guy.
It's cool to hear you talk about that though, because I feel like a lot of comics, younger comics, they just want a reaction, and they're not really worried about if it's funny or if it's offensive. And it's I think you're right. Like sometimes I've said some stuff on stage. I was surprised that the audience was offended. I was genuinely shocked. And I would think like, okay, I want to articulate what I think is funny about this, and if I can't do it, then I'm committing to just being offensive, and that's not really getting the point across either.
Correct,
So it's interesting that you do take time to look back at a joke and go, all right, maybe I'm not getting my point across, and I need to rewrite it or figure it out. So
exactly.
I wish more comics would do that.
Yeah, I think it's important to self-reflect, right? Because if you're, for me at least, I think that's important for me to, just get some level of self-awareness about my own act and have a sense of like, okay, how is this joke being interpreted? And it's interesting too, because now when I post stuff online, I'll edit stuff out. And, for the algorithm, you have to edit within like 30 seconds to 1 minute, but the bit might be much longer. But what people see is just a small sliver of the, entire bit. So their whole worldview of me as a comedian is dictated by that small fingerprint, right? So if they get offended by it, then, that's basically a situation where I say, hey, I don't mean to offend you guys, but, if you didn't enjoy the special, watch the whole thing and then tell me what you guys think. Because there's a context window that dictates a judgment call, right, from the audience. But if they see a small clip and they make that judgment call based on that small clip, then, they're going to have a different opinion when they see the whole thing. And the same thing goes for when they watch a live show. Like these edited specials are going to have a different feel for when you're versus when you're actually at a live show. The live show, there's no substitute for that. Like that's the best. That's the best experience, right? But most people don't actually go to live shows. In fact, if I invite them to a show, they'll be like, hey, send me the YouTube link instead. So I'll be like, hey, come to a live show, because you'll get a sense of the whole context is there for you to understand in the moment, right? So there's no misinterpretation if that happens.
It's really weird to me to see all the cameras in the back of the room, you know, for the comics they're filming. And it's weird when I really realize, like, most of these people are performing for an audience that's not in the room. And they're gonna take like a 5-minute chunk of material, and then they're gonna whittle that down into maybe a couple of different 30-second things, and they're gonna put that up there. And then you're right, it's like trying to work with a short attention span on the internet and crack that algorithm code. To me, it's just like, man, we are really ruining what stand-up is about, because there's no way you're going to get the full range of someone's opinion on something in a 30-second spot.
And if you think about it, if I'm watching a YouTube, there's a big difference between watching a comedian perform for a crowd and being a part of the crowd. The crowd is a living being.
Yeah,
exactly.
The only way you can experience it is to be in the crowd.
You have to be in the moment. I mean, it's live
theater.
It's live theater.
That is
it's a visceral experience.
Exactly.
Special. Exactly. And there's no substitute for that. No matter how good the content production is, it's never going to substitute the live experience in a packed audience like that. There's no way you can get any kind of tech to supplant that live experience, in my opinion. You know, it's very difficult to do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, let me jump in for a second here. How do your parents feel?
We're going deep.
You know, it's interesting. My mom is very supportive. She, in fact, said you shouldn't have done engineering. You should have just become a actor or a comedian. When I was a kid, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I agree with that. You're a bad mom. You should be telling me to do the thing that is being done by all the other guys. So what I did was, my mom actually saw this when I was very young. She was like, hey, you should get into acting. You do all these voices. And in fact, I used to do, I wanted to become a cricket commentator because I was fascinated by cricket and sports commentary, and I wanted to be a sports presenter.
Your mom recognized your strengths?
Yeah, she was like, hey, you should just do that because you're not going to make it in engineering.
Wow. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Dan and I can't identify with this. A supportive mother that recognized your strengths. That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now she's just saying you should have done this to begin with.
Yeah, she was like, I was right, you were wrong, so you fucked up, and now you're doing this anyway. So,
okay, so at least she's still judging you one way or the other.
No, now she's like, you know, no matter what I do in stand-up, though, it's funny. She always finds my brother funnier because he cracks these, these jokes in the moment, and he's very funny, like very witty, so she finds that funnier than, he's like, oh, you just rehearsed that set and you did it on stage, but he's funny in person, so he's funnier than you.
Wow.
Even though you're the
funny
comedian.
In person. Even the comedian is not funny.
Wow. Yeah. Let's get him on stage doing a 15-minute set. Let's see how he is then.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
What about your dad?
So my dad passed away when I was 18, and that, in fact, in some way, made me feel like, oh, life is so short, so you might as well make the most of it. And there's a temporary nature to your existence. So in fact, I developed my sense of humor after he passed away, strangely enough, because during the, we're all grown up as Hindus. So we have these Hindu rituals where, you have to do the, you have to do the rituals, and they would, there was a priest that was, making these balls of rice and putting sesame seeds on it. And I was so like, grief-stricken that I thought he was going to start juggling these rice balls. I was like, okay, he's going to entertain us. And that's how I internalized my grief. I was like, oh, okay, this is a funny moment. So at some level, I think it did help me figure out the fact that, okay, you need to enjoy life, keep laughing, and have a good time, because you don't know how long you're going to be here, so you might as well enjoy your life. And my dad, he passed away when he was 60. And I remember very clearly that he had a good life. Like he didn't have a drinking issue, didn't have any meat. He was vegetarian, and then he got cancer, and then he passed away. So it helped me figure out a couple of things. One was, now that I look back on it, I'm like, okay, life is very short. Even if you do things the right way, there's no guarantees that you'll have a long life, you know? And the third thing is that you should just, live in the moment and do whatever you can in this existence to maximize your life. So if that means entertaining people on a 365-day period, then you do that. That's it. You know, because if that's what makes people happy, then and makes you happy, then you just do that. You know, so there's a huge life lesson that I learned from that experience. And my dad, he also had a very good sense of humor. He used to laugh. So I used to draw cartoons when I was a kid, and I wanted to be when I was a kid, all my classmates and teachers, I used to draw their caricatures, and I wanted to be like a political cartoonist. Because there was a guy in India, he used to draw for the Times of India. It was called R.K. Lakshman, the name of the cartoonist. And it was kind of like the New Yorker, you know, the New Yorker equivalent for the Times of India. And what was interesting about that is that he was able to encapsulate the entire emotion of the country and whatever's happening in the news into one single panel. And I found that to be completely incredible, because he was able to capture so many different things and summarize it in this one little panel of a cartoon. So as a kid, I was like, oh, how did he do that? You know, it was like a magic trick almost. I was like, he's doing this on a daily basis, that he's drawing these cartoons. And when I was very young, I was like maybe 10, 12 years old, I was like, I want to be a cartoonist. So I would just draw these cartoons, and then my dad would look at the cartoons and be like, oh, that's really funny. And then he would laugh. So I think there was some validation there of my dad laughing at my cartoons when I was a kid, you know.
You sound amazingly healthy and well adjusted. Are you sure? You sure you're a comedian?
Healthy.
You sure?
So, given that, so yes, I'm hearing an incredible dialectic of schools of thought that are healthy. Do you ever found yourself losing your shit, snapping at an audience, just?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. So I think the tough part for me is absolutely 100%.
All the time? All the time? No.
All the time.
Really?
I would say it's happened maybe 4 or 5 times in my career so far. Once I don't like being interrupted because especially in the middle of a joke, there's a timing element, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes people will just interject and then just say stuff, and that really used to set me off. And then I was like, I can't be angry with the audience. They're just trying to participate, So you have to, aikido your way through these situations and figure out how to use the momentum and shift it, So I try never to blame the audience, because they're just there to have a good time. Most of the time, they're just there to have a good time. So it's like, okay, how can I adjust to this momentum shift, right? So it took me a bit of time to figure that out. But if all of them are unruly, then it's like, oh, okay, you can't do anything. You're just kind of like, you're Bill Burr in Philly, It's, the audience is going to be, is going to have a tough time. So I think for me, initially, when I had, it's funny too, because I've lived outside of India longer than I've lived in India. So anytime I go back to India, it's always a little difficult for me to get the audience on my side or do well there. So I do better over here for
interesting.
When I first started, first started doing stand-up, I used to do better over here in the States versus in India. And over a period of time, I was like, okay, I need to write stuff that travels well and have material that will do well for multiple audiences, and figure out a common ground that I can, talk about and do jokes on. So. Because a lot of my jokes are about me coming to America and adjusting to life here. That's, I think, the thesis of most of my first hour. But the next hour is going to be a little deeper and a little more universal in themes and concepts, so that I can take the special and hope it travels to other places pretty well. So it's been a learning experience, because when you're writing, sometimes you don't realize, oh, okay, this needs to make sense to someone watching it in another country, and it has to be funny to them. So sometimes it's not funny, and they're like, "Oh, this guy sucks. Like, fuck you," you know. So, am I allowed to swear on this? I don't know. No, I'm not
Yes.
sure.
Oh my
But,
God!
Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
yeah.
Are there comedians right now in India that American audiences have no idea about that are just like huge over there? Is it has
Yeah,
it taken off as an art form that?
it's taken off as an art form, but I think it comes with a lot of caveats because you can't really speak your mind because of a lot of the political pressures that comedians face. I mean, we're seeing it in this country as well. Like Jimmy Kimmel might get
Sure.
canceled, you know. So it's like that in India, but like it's pretty. You know,
It's
you
more
can talk about.
normalized in India.
I think it's one of those things where if you talk against a community or some powerful figure, you will get shut down.
Yeah.
So a lot of the comedians they talk about relationship material and
Uh,
observations about traveling to other places, which is safe. It's in the safe zone. But there are comedians like this Kunal Kamra. His name is he's a very political comedian, and he once did a set in this place in Bombay, and then they tore the place down. They like smashed up the place and
The
wow.
Indian
vandalized the
Lenny.
entire.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Indian Lenny. I would say he is kind of the Indian Lenny. He's a
Wow.
very funny
Okay.
guy, and he's anti-establishment. I don't want to speak too much for him, but I do have to say that he's one of those guys that's landed in a lot of trouble, and he's used
Mm-hmm.
it very well to his you know to get a massive fan following in India. But the irony of it is that his shows sometimes get canceled because they know he's
Yeah.
performing in a city, and then the venue manager be like, "Hey, I can't deal with this heat from these
Right.
people that don't like your
Right.
stuff," so they would just cancel the show, you know?
And that's real. I always like to point out that's really being canceled if your livelihood
That's
is
really
being
canceled,
taken.
correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Lenny was truly canceled because he didn't want to be,
Yeah,
and he got his
Yeah. He was
livelihood.
shut down. He was shut down. He was
Yeah,
driven out.
He was shut down,
That is
yeah.
what that is
I mean,
what
yeah.
being canceled is, not getting
He-
your feelings hurt.
I mean, imagine
exactly, yeah.
imagine explaining to someone. So he was arrested. I think it was 60, 64, 65. He was arrested at the Purple Onion in San Francisco.
In San
for
Francisco?
saying-
Nice.
For saying cocksucker on stage.
Uh-huh.
And that's where the cop in back that was watching him finally was like, all right, we're shutting
And it was
this
a
down.
funny fucking joke for
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
A
And he
great
said that
fucking joke.
the most painful thing about the entire experience was being in court and the cop as the witness just butchering
Oh.
his act. And,
Yeah,
and he,
yeah, yeah.
and he
Yeah,
kept
to
begging the
think
judge, like, let me do my act. Let me do my act. But I also, it's fascinating also to learn, like, or realize, as much as I am critical of the United States, our politics, Trump, the hypocrisy of it all, we can still get away with things that other places and other comedians can't. Like I remember
Yeah.
my brief time in Shanghai, and they were constantly reminding us, like, hey, don't bring up this, don't talk about that.
Yeah, exactly.
And guys were getting
Exactly.
in trouble with that. In Malaysia, I did some shows in Malaysia. There was an English DJ that got kicked off the air for making fun of the royal family, and they were
Yeah,
also,
and-
again, they were telling us, like, don't bring this up, don't talk about that.
And
So-
you don't want to end
and you
up
can't
in a
you
foreign
can't fuck
prison.
with it.
You don't.
No, you
cannot,
cannot.
exactly.
You cannot fuck with that stuff. And you know, it was fascinating to me to really. I had to leave America to appreciate that we actually do have some freedoms.
We have
in
something
America.
to
We take
protect.
for granted. We take
Correct.
and we take it for
Yeah.
granted. And I'm just like some of the Chinese nationals that were just starting to figure out stand-up comedy, they were fascinated with it because they kept coming back to the realization that, oh, you can speak truth to power. Like
Yeah.
you can make fun of powerful people, and actually that's a good thing. And they couldn't wrap their heads around it. They were just like, yeah, we can't do that.
Yeah.
You know.
It's
So-
interesting. Yeah, it's so I grew up in 3 different countries. I grew up in the
Mm.
Middle East for the first half of my life, or not the first half, for the first third of my life. The second third was, most of that time, like middle school and college was in India, and then since 2005, I've been in the States. So I've been in the States longer than all of those other countries. But so it's gone from very oppressive to medium to ultra progressive here in San Francisco. And the interesting thing that I've noticed across all of those phases in life is that in San Francisco, at least now, it's become a little more. It's still progressive for the most part, but you still have to be a little careful about what you're saying on stage. So you could get canceled by a different group, right? Depending on who you offend. But it's not nearly as bad as being in the Middle East. If you say something against the king or the emperor, so in Qatar they have these guys called the emirs. Okay, so they're called the emir of Qatar, and I remember this one time where the guy who used to be the king, or the guy who used to basically, so it's a monarchy equivalent, right? So the guy's name was Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. That was his name, Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. And his son's name was let me see. So sorry, the father's name was Khalifa bin Hamad Al Thani. Okay, and then the son's name was Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. So it's just a reverse. But the son, he ran a coup against his dad, and then moved his dad to the UK. So he's now in charge. His name is Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, and it was so scary at the time that if you mixed up his name and if you mixed up his dad name with him, like if you swapped the names out, you would go to prison. Like, wow. So people had to use mnemonics to remember the name because it was so confusing, right? So they just said, okay, HBK. So they just remembered the king as Heartbreak Kid, and the wrestler back in the day, and that's how people just avoided going to prison. So it was just one of those things where you could get thrown into jail for getting the king's name wrong, and it's interesting too because the Middle East, a lot of things are, how would I put it? I would say there's mixed feelings about living there because it was a comfortable life, but there's no rights for immigrants at all. If you say the wrong thing, or if you have like a religious ceremony at your house, you might get deported. Because I remember there was one family that was celebrating Hindu culture, but they were like, "Hey, you're not in line with the Islamic regime of this country, and there's no religious freedom, so you have to go back to India." So it was that oppressive back in the day. Maybe now it's gotten better, but I still think it's pretty, it's very difficult for, in some sense to get any representation. This Sharia law is still like a big thing there. So finding any lawyers to help you with your case, all of that is like if you need any representation in a court of law, it's very biased. So it was, but I'm hoping things have changed. I'm hoping things have liberalized a little more over there. But who knows? I haven't been there in almost 21. Yeah, fingers crossed.
I'm fascinated that Saudi Arabia did that huge comedy festival and paid an ungodly amount of money to some of these huge names in comedy to come over, and it's fascinating to hear these comedians defend it, and talk about how like, hey, I got a big paycheck, so what? And I'm able to say things in Saudi Arabia that I can't say in America, and I'm like, I don't think that's accurate at all. Like, because then you start asking, like, well, who was in the room? Like, was it an all-male audience? Was it just, and it feels like what Saudi Arabia has really, really been very, very canny about is going after things that are very American, like golf and stand-up. Right.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
they created these like the Live Golf Tournament, and now it's like they're trying to normalize all of their ideas, but still it's like, but if you're a reporter and you criticize them, you could be dismembered. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, it's kind of like a veil on top of the country, in
so
some
it's a
sense,
culturally, we can culturally what's the word? Consumerize it and make money off it, but not,
exactly. So it's a facade.
That's mutually exclusive
in many
with
ways.
free speech.
It's just
exactly.
I mean, look, I'm a huge social commentator, and I go after Trump. I go after the religious right in this country. But it is important to remember, and Dan, I think you said it right. Like, there there are compelling reasons to defend what we have. Because when you do go around the world and you see, like, man, there was a comedian in China that spent a year in prison for making a joke about the military. And no matter what you say in this country, you're not going to spend, a year in jail for making fun of someone. I mean, not yet. Let's give it a year, but...
Yeah.
That's the thing. So coming back to the whole thing about tech becoming, increasingly disturbing is because now they have these mass surveillance engines all across the horizon of the internet, right? Mm-hmm. So you have all these media companies that are being bought by the billionaires, and you have the way they're getting emotional sentiment from the audience is through these platforms like Facebook, Meta, YouTube, the television networks, right? They're getting a sense of what is the public sentiment about what people are thinking, right? And you have these now shifts that are happening towards the aspect of complete mass surveillance, right? Like it's not just video anymore. You see these self-driving cars in San Francisco. They have 20 cameras on them. What are they filming? They've been on the road for so many years. They have a map of what the city looks like, but why are they always scanning the environment, right? Even if there's no one in the city, they'll still scan the environment. And if there's someone crossing the street, they're now on video. So have they been asked those questions about whether they're allowed to be on video?
Yeah,
so
where is that? Yeah. It's also interesting. It's interesting what they don't scan, because if you've been in the back of a Waymo and you can see the screen, it'll tell you the shops that you're passing, it'll tell you the car that's next to you. But if you go by a homeless person, nothing.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
They don't show
up. Exactly. So it's almost, it's kind of crazy because we are getting towards an Orwellian state very soon, because they like, think about this, right? Like the fact that AI has so much of no regulation. There's no regulation on AI. And that is by design, because any business that wants to make money wants to be the least regulated to make the most amount of money, right? If you regulate a business, you're going to have impediments for them to not make the money they set out to, right? So the fact that there's no guardrails against this very potentially toxic technology is baffling, because you've heard of instances of people completely losing their mind talking to ChatGPT and all these other platforms that are out there. But the fact is that, people don't know how they're being manipulated is the question, right? So
and we don't have the energy. We don't care. We just want to.
Exactly.
I just want to buy the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in a jaded state of mind,
Yeah. So, I would love to have you back on to talk more about the AI aspect, just culturally, and it's fascinating to me that AI can do all of these things and answer all of these questions. It's becoming more increasingly socially competent. It can have very deep emotional conversations, and I'm wondering, at what point is there going to be an AI comedian? Because I feel like if they could crack that, right? Like there's all the pop culture and context and all. If you could get an AI agent to actually perform like a 5-minute stand-up set, I think then, like, holy shit, I thought our jobs were safe, but if they can do that, then they can do anything.
I think a lot of joke writing and humor comes from a place of human emotion, which is very hard to replicate for a robot. I think it's going to be very
believe that. Yeah. I want to believe that too. Look, we depressed Dan so much. He turned his camera and his microphone off. He had to take a minute to just. I don't want to go too far down the AI rabbit hole, but I know comedians that are using ChatGPT as creative coaches. I know comedians that are using ChatGPT to refine jokes. And I'm not talking about just like local comedians too. I'm talking about people that are writing, for recognizable shows. It's coming into every part of our lives. And I just saw that the Academy Awards the other day, they said like, hey, we're only going to issue Academy Awards to human beings and human written scripts. But, it's out there, and they know
you
It is out there.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
it's fascinating to me, but
If it
anyway,
works.
we don't want to go too depressing and dark and
So
deep
let's-
on that.
let's,
You want to get to the big question, Dan?
the big question we always wrap up on a pie. You have, I believe you said, you're a headliner, correct?
Yes, I do headline. Yes.
Okay, so you
yeah.
headlined in the very competitive city of San Francisco. You had the courage to move from LA to San Francisco, which sounds like a very well thought out move creatively. You came here from India in 2005. You have made a tech career and a showbiz career for yourself. You're a regular headliner in the Bay Area, building a following. Do you feel successful?
Ooh, I always feel like a failure, to be honest.
All right, so you are a comedian. Good for you. Good.
Yeah,
Nice
yeah.
to hear that.
But do you feel like
Sometimes
you
we
have
get
A's?
these people on. Yeah, I think no. Of course you're not.
Do you feel like you have a measure of success, though? Do you feel like you've fought the good fight and you got something to show for it?
Well, I will say that I'm happy that I filmed a special and I got it out of the way because I wanted to get rid of those jokes for the longest time. And I feel like a lot of my, it's like an anchor, you know, it's like a creative anchor. When you have these old jokes that are holding on to you, it's like, okay, you need to cut them off and then grow new trees, you know? So I think that was one of the big points of relief for me. I was like, okay, fine, I'm just done with this. I will say that was a huge moment for me in my career. Is like, okay, I have an hour, I can send it on the internet, and now on to the next thing, you know. So it was a good way to move forward. But yeah, I've never felt successful at all. I've always felt like a failure or an imposter syndrome type of guy, you know. So always improving on the next thing. So
you're funny.
I feel like yeah,
That's called ADHD plus funny.
Yeah.
ADHD inspired low self-esteem.
Yeah. I mean, it's remarkable how many times we ask that question, and it's remarkable how consistent.
How consistently,
you know.
Yeah, I call myself a fail guru, you know. So I'm a guru of failure. So I've failed so many times in my life. It's internalized in my body now. So in terms of success, I think it depends on how people define success. For me, success can be like small things, like if I get a nice new joke tonight, that'll work consistently. You know, sometimes it works the first time, and then when you do it again, it's like, oh, it doesn't work. Why didn't it work? So those things always frustrate me. So when I get something to work consistently, then I feel like, okay, that's a measure of success for a new bit to work. You know, so I would define that success is again very relative based on where you are in life and what your goals are in life. For me right now, I would say that it's work in progress. Everything is work in progress. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yes, success. So for our audience, success is just a moment in time of creating something from nothing. Beautiful, small, creative success.
Yeah.
Just I don't even call it success. I just call it delayed non-failure. You know.
I like the idea of being a failure guru. Now, if you could get people to pay you money to teach them how to fail
from failure.
Yeah, just oh my god, I pushed it off another 5 minutes. Well, thank you.
Thank you for being on our show, Abhay. This was
Thank you so much for having me. This was
awesome.
a lot of fun. Thank you, guys.
And like and subscribe, people.
Like and subscribe to the
Splain.
Oh,
I think you're doing it on purpose now. I really do. I really do.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see you next week.
Hey, thank you so much.